Hi everybody, welcome to today's live watercolor session. I'm Sarah Giese. I'm an artist and a wife and a mom, and I'm happy to be here with you today. We're going to paint some tulips. They're my favorite other than maybe orchids, but they're pretty, they're simple, but sometimes simple can be a little bit more complicated to create. So today we're going to work on something it's maybe going to be a longer one than usual. Just takes a little bit longer with the details that we've put in this painting. But we're excited to be together. We just want to focus on making something beautiful, putting that into the world. So many times there's all the things coming at us that can be negative, and we can put something positive into the world by focusing, listening to what our brains and our spirits are saying is beautiful, and we put it onto a paper. It's a simple little exercise, but it's a real exercise. It's a real spiritual exercise, actually. So we're going to do that together. We're going to paint a little painting, and yeah, hopefully you can show this beauty to me and to the rest of us when you're done with it. So, all you need today is your paints and your paper, watercolor paper, and a brush and water. If you have this kind of paint palette, that's great. We're gonna use 2 colors of purple and maybe 2 colors of pink, kind of a fuchsia color, and then 2 colors of green and a brown. So a lot of the variation in color is going to happen through the water, adding more water and or less, but we do need those colors. So a few colors of purple, 2 colors of purple, 2 colors of pink maybe, and then 2 colors of green and brown. Okay, so if you have your watercolor paper ready with the template, we're going to get ready. We're going to just jump right into the painting. You can put this template, you can find it on Facebook in the comments below this video, or there's a photo album. If you click on it, it says templates, and all of the templates for all the videos are there. I know some people have been asking me, how do I find the templates? They are all there. So hopefully you can find that. This template is there. If you can put it in your printer, that'd be great. Just print it onto your watercolor paper. If you don't have the printer capability, you can use graphite paper. You can just draw it by yourself with your eye, or you can hold it up to a window, something like that. Okay. So I'm assuming you have this done. Now let's look at the painting. So you see it's a little more complicated than some of the other ones we've been doing lately, which is kind of fun, actually. We're going to push ourselves a little bit. So we're going to start with painting the flowers. You'll see that there have multiple colors going on. If you wanted to just simplify this painting, you could just paint all one color, just simply filling in those blanks with one color. What I did is use a lot of water. You'll see that I allowed the water to come up and away from the flower, so that there's kind of a romantic soft glow there along the flowers. We're going to go in with water, and we're going to add paint to them. First the pink, and then we'll put purples in. So we'll do all the flowers first, and then we'll go in and do the greens, and we'll add paint to the pot, and this stuff is going to be the easy part. But first we'll go in with the pink. Okay, so you'll have a medium-sized brush. I'm using actually a smallish brush. This is number 1, a number 1. You'll need some clean water. Okay, and we're just going to start with this one right here. Now it's very flowy. You can notice it's quite flowy. We're just going to put paint water all over that little area, and we'll drop some pink paint in. Okay, so we'll just go in with our brush and paint water, and allow the water to just kind of come out beyond the flower so that it kind of flows a little farther out. So now we have water on there. We're going to use a kind of a fuchsia color, and we're going to drop that paint in along the outer edges. And we're going to let it flow out down here. Okay. We're just going to go in this first time through. It's going to be basically the first layer of paint. Okay. Okay, go into the second one. We're going to do similar. I'm going to paint with just the water. There's a little bit of paint left on my brush, but it's the right color. So, and I'm going to, again, let the paint kind of go out beyond the flower a little bit, the water out there. And then I'm going to go in with my fuchsia and paint along the edges. And let it kind of float up into the rest of that water. Ooh, I have some black on my brush. That's not good. Okay. Flowing up. All right. Just the first layer. We're going to go back in later and put some more colors in there. Okay. Now, this flower here, you'll see that this still has part of the little covering stem part on the leaf. It looks like a leaf left over from when it blossomed, right? So we're going to leave this part green, these two parts green, but under here we're going to paint the purple and pink. So you'll notice that just like other paintings of flowers we've done, we're going to let the tops be lighter because the light would be hitting those tips. And as you go down underneath, the shadows, because of the layering of the petals, it's going to be darker as you go down. So we're going to put more paint toward the bottom of the petals and let it be light up on the top. Okay. So this one we're not going to paint with water because we want to be able to control where that paint goes. But I'm going to go in with a wet brush and with some paint. And I'm going to paint up from those creases. I'm going to put paint in the crease so that it looks like it's darker on the bottom, and then as it gets to the top, it's going to be lighter. That way, it looks more realistic. And there we go. And up from this side here, and this whole one, I'm just going to paint the whole thing. Okay, so I've got some brush strokes going up. I'm going to use my water and just kind of blend it so that it turns a little more, less lines and more blended looking, and allow it to go up toward the top with a light pink. I'm going to leave the tips white, but have light pink go up to most of the tops there, almost to the top. See that? Okay. We'll go back in with purple and make those more dramatic, but that's the first layer there. Okay, again, I have a little bit more pink on my brush, but we're going to go in darker on the bottom here. This whole area is going to be kind of purpley, but we'll put some pink, and I'm going to go along the lines, along the lines of this one. Just kind of go up the lines And then I'll add some water just so that this is a nice light pink at the top and darker at the bottom. Don't be afraid to leave some white, just let it flow around. A little bit of pink in the tips, but okay. Okay, continuing on. Now this one, similar thing. We're just going to leave the tips white and we're going to start at the bottom and go up with the pink. Okay, this area right here is another green part, so we're not going to paint that little guy. We're just going to go up from the bottom with our fuchsia and then add water as we go toward the top. Again, in here it's going to be darker because it's got a shadow. And here too, darker because of the shadow. Okay. Leaving that for green and come up from the side as well. Okay, now I'm going to go in just with a wet brush and kind of blend it so that it's light pink as we go up and then white on the tips. Hope you're having a good day. It's been kind of a weird one for me. I even took a nap today. I had an allergic reaction. My eyes feel like they're just super itchy. All right. Okay, moving to
someone in the chat said that they love watching you paint and that your voice is so relaxing.
Oh, so relaxing. That's nice. It's nice. I think painting does that to me. Painting makes me calm. I don't know that people would have said in real life or in regular life, especially as a younger person, I don't think people would have said, oh, she's so calm and relaxing. Maybe it's just getting older. I don't know. All right, we're going to this one here. Again, we're just going to put the darker at the bottom. And we're going to follow the lines and kind of come up. I take that as a compliment, though. It's like, I remember watching Bob Ross growing up. He was so calming. So I'll take it. Maybe I should get an afro. My son's being my techie guy over there today. He said, absolutely, that's not an option. Okay, so outside this flower, we're also going to put some watery flowiness also up here. Just kind of just let the water flow around and then we'll add some paint to it. That way, just kind of flows, has a little bit of a, I don't know, loose look to it. If you don't want to do this part, you don't have to. You can just make it look like just the flowers on white paper, you know. That works too. But this is one of my favorite things to do, is dropping paint into water and it just disperses. It's so fun. It's really satisfying to me. Partly because I'm not controlling it very much. I'm just letting it happen. And it's kind of fun to see what happens when you do that. It's kind of why I like painting, I think. It's an exercise in not controlling things. I think sometimes in our culture, we just think controlling things is the epitome of holiness or something. I think it's not so true. Okay, so we've got our first pink layer going on. All right, it's pretty straightforward. We've got the darker toward the bottom, and as we go up, we're going to go lighter. Okay, so now we're going to add in the purples. So I'm going to use kind of a rich kind of purple. It's not very blue. It's got more red in it. And I'm just going to add more darkness toward the bottoms of these tulips. You see how that is? Just to have some more definition and some more depth to it. This looks a little bit floaty and airy. I'm going to add that purple in to just make it a deeper shade. Okay. So, but I'm going to keep it toward the bottom of these flowers so that it shows how the shadow would be, right? We want to make sure that the shadows look more realistic. If you add it to the tips, you know, that's not really how light works, is it? Okay. I do want to go back in and add some more of that fuchsia on a second layer that would be nice and bright and pretty. I just love that shade of pink. But right now we're just going to add that purple in toward the bottoms, and then kind of where the lines are, that'll give them a little bit more definition. Let's see where the petals are. And then we add some water so that it just kind of flows around. You don't want it to look too stark. That's the beauty of watercolors, is that soft look. At least in my opinion. Not everybody feels the same. It's the beauty of art, right? It's very subject. What's beautiful to one might not be to another. Okay, again, I'm going in toward the bottom, adding a little bit of purple. See how much more depth that gives along these edges here. Just suddenly looks like it goes farther down in, right? Allowing that to just flow in. Now here I'm going to put some purple on the inside of these petals because they're kind of rounded like this, and that inside area would have some darkness to it. So this little guy has a rounded petal, and inside I'm going to make it purple. That would be a little darker in there. Makes sense. Here, this one has that too, so I'm going to put the purple on that inside area. All down in the cracks. Where that light wouldn't be shining so brightly. And there's another one of those folded in petals here that would go, the dark purple would go in there. I'm just going to let some of that come down and be at the bottom as well. Okay, moving toward this one. Okay, now this tulip is in front of this one kind of. So this area right here would be quite shaded. So I'm going to go in with purple underneath there and just kind of make a shadow where this one is blocking its light. I'm going to go in with quite a bit of purple here. And just kind of allow that to be a shadowy area. That would be kind of shadowy up to here. We'll just put some defining lines going in there. Maybe some darker spots where those little guys are connecting. Okay, go in with a little bit of water and soften some of the lines. My phone is going off. Okay, onto this flower. Okay, same technique. We're just going to go in toward the bottoms, add some purple in. This one is green, remember, so we don't want to add to the green one. I'm just going to go along some of the lines, go in some of these little guys, show where the darkness would be. Okay. It's all about shading. Now, like I said, if you wanted to simplify this one, you could just make them all purple or all pink or whatever color, and they would still look like tulips. We're just doing a little bit of a shading exercise. Okay, I'm going back in with some purple on this one, starting at the bottom and going up. Now I'm thinking this one would have a shadow down all along the bottom because it's kind of leaning that way. This light's coming from the top. I'm just letting that purple come up a little higher and adding water. Okay, here we go. We've got 2 layers now, 2 layers of pink and purple. All right, I'm going to let that sit for a little while, and we'll go back in with a little more fuchsia and brighten up that pink a little bit. But let's move on to the leaves. Okay, so you'll notice the leaves have 2 colors of green in them. I have a lighter green and a darker green. We're going to go in with the lighter green and just make 1 layer of light green. Then we'll go back in with the darker green on top and add the shading in. Now there are a couple places where we've got brown and maybe even a little bit of purple in there for the really shaded areas. So we'll do that as we go. But first layer, we're going to put in this lighter green color. Okay, you'll notice I left a little bit of white here and there so that it looks shiny. That's up to your discretion. Okay, so I'm using kind of a sage color, a little light green that has some brown in it. You could use a lighter, brighter green. That's fine. Ooh, that has a lot of brown in it. So I'm going in just with a light layer like this. And we're just going to go all over all the green parts. That way we have a good foundation to work with. So don't forget the ones that are way in the background. It's kind of important to get those ones in the background, because otherwise it looks like sometimes when people draw, they'll draw the subject and it'll just be floating on the paper. So it's important to have the background so that you have a context for that subject. So you kind of think, oh, okay, it's sitting, it's sitting on a table and it has depth to it. There's some things behind, Otherwise, they look kind of floaty. Just filling things in here now. If your flowers are really wet still, you don't want to touch them with this paint. It'll flow right in, right? So last night we had our Artist Way book club. It was fun. Had some good conversations. Not easy conversations, actually. A lot of thinking through. Last night it was all about discovering a sense of identity. Like who are you? And what is it that you desire, that you like to do? And I think a lot of times especially as women, we don't think about that question very often. So we're busy taking care of people and being the caregiver, So, yeah, some exercises that we all worked through. It's healthy, I think, to think about what am I made for? What brings a spark to my heart? Again, leaving a little bit of white here and there just to allow for some brightness to come through. You'll notice like it's taking shape, you can see that it's leaves and flowers. If you just leave it at one color, even with the water, it's making some different shades of this green, but you'll notice it kind of blends all together, and that's the kind of thing we want to when you allow your paints to blend and using more than one color to shade and to create depth. Gets a lot more interesting, right? So this is a good first layer, but we're going to go in with some more color in a minute. Adding water to the paint we already put on there and just moving it around. Now this one and this one, you can see the underside and it's more shadowed. So I'm going to leave that because I don't think there's any use in painting it green when I'm going to use a brown to cover that area because that's the real shadowy side. So no need to put green there at this point. I must have had some purple on my brush still when I went in with this because it's quite brown. Interesting how colors mix, you didn't realize. So We've got one layer now. Okay. All right, so that was my sagey kind of light green. I'm going to go in with a darker green, kind of more of a forest green. You could use a Kelly green, you could use a blue green, whatever you want, or like a that new spring green color that's been around lately. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to use this darker green just because. All right, and I'm going to use a similar technique to what I did here. I'm going to think about where the shadows would be, and I'm going to go in and put the darker green along that area. So along the bottoms of these leaves, if the light's coming down, that would be darker on this side of the leaf. Yeah. So I'm going to allow that to come in, and then I'm going to put some water in so that it kind of blends up toward the top. Okay, this flower stem, it's going to have some shadows underneath here. Don't be afraid to even put some of the green onto the flower. Just let that be flowing up there. That's fine. But I'm going to let that dark green be on that underside there, and use some water to push it, flow it over to the other side. Okay, similar here. This will all be shadowed because it's underneath this one, so we're just going to make this all dark. This is a dark one. Just going in with water to push that up a little bit. I'm going to need to go in later and sharpen some of these lines. I'm putting water, noticing it's getting a little bit, the lines are getting a little fuzzy. Okay, this would be dark underneath here too. I'm going to let that be dark. And this is a continuation down here of that leaf. We're going down. And using water to flow it up, mix it around. Okay. Just keep doing the same thing. I'm going to go along this whole edge here to define it. You can draw lines to show the veins if you'd like that. Okay, continuing on. This one's going to be the darkest of all, I think, because it's kind of nestled down in the middle there. So I'm going to make her a little real dark. Okay. This little guy poking out over here. It's getting to be so beautiful these days. Spring has sprung in Texas, that's for sure. Going down along the bottom, this would be the darker area, giving it some shading along the bottom here, and maybe under this leaf would be shaded, and then blending it in. the next week or two, we're going to be doing some virtual painting party with acrylic paints and canvases. So I'm going to put a link to where to get those and how to get that, so you can paint along with us. We have been doing them via Zoom, but I'm finding that that's probably not the best way to go about it. So I think we'll do more like a live simulcast kind of thing, where you sign up and you log in and then you paint along and can ask questions as we go. But the Zoom setup, it's hard to see, and then it's hard to record and use later. If somebody signs up and for some reason can't paint at that time, the Zoom call, we've recorded them, but it's hard to see, and you're listening to other people have conversations and have dinner and all of that. So I think a simulcast would be a better situation. So we're going to try that. So that'll be coming up pretty soon, and that painting I'll post pretty soon, so keep an eye out. It'll be a 16 by 20 canvas, and we'll be using acrylic paints and something that you can hang in your house and be pretty. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. Okay, again, dark along the top, and then as we get down closer here, it's going to be lighter and lighter. Don't be afraid to leave some white. Okay. If you want to be doing that, we have kind of a community going on Patreon. So the two things that I just mentioned, the book club and the painting club monthly, are you can sign up through Patreon. If you just want to do the 1 month at a time, you can do that as well. Okay, going along here. Bring it down. And blending it all in. All these little alcoves. If you need to use a lighter or smaller brush, you can switch to your tiny brush. But you can probably use a pretty medium-sized brush and just use the tips to get into those nooks and crannies. Okay. Oh, with all the arguing and fighting on Facebook and Instagram, it's nice to just not think about anything and paint a pretty picture. Oh, I wish people would just calm down a little bit. Makes me tired. uh, all right, we're getting there. We're gonna go down along these edges here of these big leaves. Be darker at the top because all this stuff is going to be shading it, and then it'll get lighter as we go down. So I'm going to go in with water now and pull it down. Keep it nice and soft. I like letting some of these have cool watery marks on them. I love it. If you want to have them more controlled looking and more solid looking, you just go in with a moderate amount of water and a moderate amount of paint and be very consistent about where you're adding it. If you want it to be more interesting and have some flowy marks in it, go in with water and let it flow around a little bit. You can always go back in and make the lines more smooth or whatever. Okay. So we've got a nice layer of green on those. 2 layers of green. I'm going to go in with the brown now, and here and here we've got some dark areas, and then here and here we have the underside of the leaves, which I am going to make brown too, nice and dark. So which brown am I going to use? I'll use this one. So I'm just going to go in and, oops, it's still green. I go in with the darker brown color. Huh. That's not the color I was thinking. Let's see. I might have to use more than 1 layer just because I want it to be dark. And watercolors don't always come across dark. So in order to make it less light, you'd use less water, right? More concentrated paint. Letting that brown just fill in the shadowy areas. This little spot here. This little spot over here. All right, probably go in and make that darker. I might use some purple in there too as well, just to make the coronavirus not only having a patent but having multiple patents. There you go. All right. Okay. We'll let that dry. Like I said, I'm going to go back in with some fuchsia, that first color we used, just to put some pops of color, just nice and dark and brighter colors on top of what we've got already. When you want something for watercolors, the way you make vibrant colors is to have less water and layers. So allowing it to dry and then going back in with a little more color. See how much more vibrant that pink can be? that first layer just dissolves into the paper, but as you go in with a second and third layer, it allows the color to stay on top. So that's kind of my goal, is just to brighten these areas up a little bit and let that fuchsia color look as bright as it wants to be. Wherever your eye wants a little more color, you just trust your eye. It's one of the things I think we're taught not to do, is we're taught not to trust ourselves. And sometimes, you know, we've got to be careful about letting emotions run wild, but especially when you're looking at art, the whole deal is to listen to yourself and listen to what your mind's eye wants, and turn off that critic that's in your head. That critic is so loud sometimes. But listening, practice listening. Ask yourself what needs to happen, and just do it and see what happens. This is like there's no consequence in this. It's just a little painting you're making in the privacy of your home, right? What could go wrong? Nothing. That's pretty. Nice and bright. Now I'm going to pull some of that fuchsia down into some of these stems a little bit here. There might be a little bit of a shadow made by the stem or by the leaves. Put some in here maybe. Kind of rich, makes that color rich. Okay. So we've got some brightness happening. All right. Pretty much we're getting there. Now we're going to work on the pot and the little table area. So the pot area, we're going to let it be very watery. Okay, I'm going to put water on the paper and let the paint do its thing. But we need to put some shadows under these leaves here. So I'm going to use my it's a bluer dark purple. Like I said, we used kind of a purple that had more red in it. I'm going to use more of a blue one here and allow that to just kind of flow underneath these leaves here where the shadow would have come down. See how that goes? Just going to let that kind of come. That's the shadow for this leaf here. See how that is? I'll let it be nice and watery. And then we're going to have a shadow coming down off of this one. It'll come down on the pot that way. And then over here there would be shadow as well under this leaf. You can make those shadows as dark as you want. You can make them real light, whatever. Okay. Let the water come down through. Okay. Put them down here too. All right, and then I'm going to add, this would kind of maybe reflect on here, so I'm going to put some fuchsia on the side here. And let it be the reflection of that guy. Just very loosely. And now I'm going to use water to kind of blend all these in. So I'm just going to pull water across and allow the water to be flowing. Maybe leave that corner white. Just leave it like that. Okay. Now we've got shadows, we've got a little reflection, and that's it. Okay. Now for the table, you can make that any color you want. I made it the kind of this green, the lighter green color. And it's also going to be very watery. So we're going to go in with just water along the edge, like this. Now, when we get here, we're not going to go into that pink because it's going to flow on out. So we're going to let that just be how it is. Maybe over here in that little white spot. So we've got this water painted all around along the edge. Then we're going to go in with that green color and drop the color in along the edge and let it flow up, flow down. Okay. And use water and just let that flow. Okay, so the shadow for this one would be farther down here, right? So let it be darker underneath where the flowers are and lighter as it goes down. My paper is getting really wrinkly. I'm trying to flow the opposite direction. Let's see. There we go. Now let that pink stay pink. There we go. Now, if you want to, you can make it darker underneath like this so that the shadow of the tulips. Okay, it's getting really bendy. And that is it. Okay, so at this point in the painting, you're going to look around and think, okay, what do I need to do to make this the best it could be? What is missing? Where do I need to do anything? So I'm noticing that some of these lines in here, like I said earlier, have gotten kind of flowy because I put water. I'm going to go back in with less water and just my paintbrush with the green, the darker green, and just add more definition to those lines. You could go in with your white paint pen and put some details in. You could use a black marker and make some, more defined lines. Really, you can just do whatever you feel like. If you feel like it's not purple enough, you can add some purple. That is about it. There we go. We've made some tulips. So I hope you had a good time focusing and really getting in a flow. It's very good for you, good for us to get in that flow in a place where time goes by and you don't realize the time went by. And I pray that your homes will be full of peace and grace and wholeness this week, and I will see you next week as we paint again together. Have a good night.